Today I would like to talk about a very simple Figma component called as Articulate, which can be used for design documentation and deliberation. As you can see on the screen, there are three objectives for making this component. First of all, it can help you in articulating your design decisions throughout the project. It also gives you a checklist for usability heuristics and some other things. You can also document your blockers and constraints while working on the project, and you can always customize this entire component according to your needs and requirements. So you might ask here that what is the need of having it? Why bother with this? Well, I have two answers here. The first one is that a decision log or some way of design documentation can help you understand the evolution of the interface, how it started and how it changed due to decisions, constraints, and other factors. It's always helpful to look back and see what led to all the iterations. This can also be a way to reduce your design debt. The second answer is that having something within Figma reduces the friction of documentation. And making it structured lets you focus on certain aspects rather than randomly jotting down points that will be difficult to trace later. So, having said that, let's see how this component works. So, what you see on the screen is an instance of this component, and you can always have an instance in your Figma working file. So this component, you can either use it at a screen level, at a flow level, or even at a project level. Although I would recommend that you should either use it for like screens or a particular flow. So what you see on the screen is the summary tab, and here you can enter some metadata about the screen, like the screen name, what the screen is about. You can also specify the state. So it currently shows work in progress, but you can always mark it as completed. You can change the name of the designer. So let's pick Wittgenstein here, and you can always customize this list in the component. What's the state of the screen? So it currently says happy path, but there are others like no data, error, loading, or transitory. And then you can also specify if there are any blockers or if there are any open questions. So let's say you have blockers, and let's say you have certain open questions. So this gives you an overall summary of the screen or of the flow, and we can now change the tab to go to objective. Now this is the place where you will provide some more details about the screen, like why is the screen made the way it is made. You can provide a description here, and you can also select some reasons for designing this particular screen. So it can be based on like human psychology or the research, or maybe you are also making certain assumptions here. And below you can see some template questions, that what design decisions led to this interface, or how some of the factors that I've selected above influence the design. So you can enter all of that kind of rationals here, and you can always extend this component, and everything will stay just fine thanks to Figma auto layout and constraints. So now let's look at heuristics. So these are your Nielsen-Norman usability heuristics, along with some other things like accessibility, inclusive content, and data usage disclosure. So as you are working on the screen, you might want to check certain heuristics as you kind of work on them. Just like a reminder. Let's move ahead to open questions. Now, when you are working on design, there are always some questions. Design is emergent. We learn new things as we are designing. So there might be questions for various teams. So you can mark them, and you can also comment here the basic Figma comment feature, so to let the teams know that there are open questions for them. And you can use the space to have your questions. So the idea is that if somebody from other teams comes to have a look at your designs, they can go to open questions through comments, and they can always see what are the questions that are open for them or for other teams. Let's go to blockers. So there are situations in which you're blocked because either you don't have enough information or there are team bandwidth issues. So you can check them and provide your reasons for blockers. Let's move to constraints. So there's always the situation in which you come up with a north star, an ideal design, and then you change the design, or you have to sometimes change the design because of certain constraints, which can be due to time, engineering, or business. So the idea here is that you mark those constraints, and you provide you provide some details regarding those constraints. So the idea is that, let's say you have progressed on the design, and once you come back later, you can always see the evolution. You can always see why the iterations were made. They were probably made because of certain constraints, or they were probably made because of certain blockers. And the last tab is just about taking some quick notes. You can also use it as a change log, wherein you can just document how the screen has changed over time, or what are the variations that you have made to the interface over time. So this is basically a very simple Figma component. And if you go to the components page, you can see that all the components are listed here. Feel free to change them according to your needs. You can also see all the variants here. And the whole idea is that this simple articulate component will help you in design documentation and in understanding the design evolution. So I hope this helps, and let me know your feedback on Twitter or through email. Thank you.